Hello, everyone. Live from the energy of New Orleans, where culture speaks loud and truth speaks louder. This is Don't Spill the Tea, Spill the Truth. I'm Walt J, joined by Melanie and Cara. And tonight, we stepping back into, maybe I should have said tonight. My bad.
Daytime.
Let's start it over today.
That's all right. And that's a blooper. Bloop, bloop.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Hello, fam. Live from energy of New Orleans, where culture speaks loud and truth speaks louder. This is Don't Spill the Tea, Spill the Truth. I'm Walt J, joined by Melanie and Cara. And this afternoon, we stepping back into the conversation that doesn't sit quiet. Loyalty versus integrity, part 2. Because the first time we asked the question, now we deal with the consequences. What happens when standing by someone starts costing you who you are, when keeping it real feels like breaking a bond? This isn't surface talk. This is pressure. This is principle. This is personal. Let's get into it.
All right. All
We
the
in
way
New
live.
Orleans, y'all.
Yes. The NOLA, baby.
All right, all
So
right.
integrity versus loyalty.
What you
I'll
got?
kickstart the question on integrity. Okay. So when I think of integrity versus loyalty, we'll just give an example. You have a friend who may have integral, compromises their integrity. So integrity speaks on being loyal to your moral compass, your beliefs, versus the loyalty that you may have with a friend, a family member, a coworker, a superior, anyone that you have built a relationship, a ship with, whether it's platonic, romantic, or just a relationship. So you integrity makes you choose your moral compass over the loyalty or the relationship that you have built with someone else. Just per se, I'll just say, having we'll just say a sibling decides to have this outlandish idea to do something that goes against what you stand for. So, saying no, and that's also being an accountability partner for whoever you have built a relationship of loyalty with as well, not to compromise that just because of the loyalty relationship. Or we'll go as far as being in a relationship. Integrity and relationships are challenged all the time, right? Especially when it comes to loyalty with your partner, when you are advanced with temptation. So do you stand on integrity to the person that you're loyal with, or do you go what you're tempted on? So there are so many different ways, different challenges where you have to face to choose integrity versus loyalty. Okay,
I
Carl,
hear
Okay.
what you thinking? I see you thinking. You think what you got?
I feel like with integrity and loyalty, coming from a friend or foe base, we lean towards loyalty, unfortunately. I mean, basic person, a lot of people don't think about integrity. I
Mm.
personally would think about integrity because I want to look at the character of the person, the more, like you said, moral compass, a more principle of a person. Because think about it, how you move will determine how we move forward in life, ship, or just anybody. But that's my opinion considered to that. What you think, Walt?
Well, I think integrity steps in where loyalty gets tested. Because even if it might cost me a relationship, because, integrity, some people don't really understand the difference between loyalty and integrity, right? Some people want their integrity. Sure, if you, example, like in a relationship, at a job, just tells what's going on right now and we can solve it, take care of it, right? But some people say loyalty, like Melanie said, some people, like you and Melanie both said, like some people gear towards loyalty more than anything because hey, I'm loyal to you, but they not really, but it's necessarily the right thing. You tell somebody you loyal to them even when they doing wrong. So I'm kind of, I have dealt with people that more have a lot of integrity and loyalty. But at the end of the day, the person that practices integrity to me is like you can always say like, well, I know what he's about. I know what he gonna stand, so but some people loyalty, okay, you might be loyal to me, but you might be loyal to somebody else even more. So that's something else you gotta think about with that.
Said more. That is true. I think my question would be what allows a person to choose the percentage of loyalty that they give a person. What is the grading scale for that? For you to choose, like, hey, I'm 100% loyal to this person, or I'm 50% loyal to the next person. Like, what? And the reason why I ask is because in my mind, when we choose friends, I feel like, or even with family, in family it's a different dynamics, but with friends and relationships are somewhat similar, I would think, as far as being vetted. And you vet people based off of what your moral compass is, what your standards are. So if you're vetting your friends and romantic partners in this somewhat similar dynamics, then why is there a percent?
But are we looking at partnership for friendship or just partnership in a relationship? Because here's the thing, why are we looking at partnership for a friendship? Friendship is just the stole of being a friend. I can't determine whether you're gonna do more for me with a friendship. Like I know being there for a wedding to friendship, or sometimes it could be monetary value, right? But with a relationship and a partnership, I just feel like that goes hand in hand. I don't know, maybe I could be wrong, but what you think, Well?
Well, I think loyalty protects people, integrity protects truth. And when those two collide, you have to choose your identity between those two, right? And so, like you said, like examples dealing with money, money will expose a lot of people. Hey, I might be loyalty, but you still need to give me back my money or something like that. Because remember now, money has broken a lot of friendship over the past years. Let me give you an example, or say like everybody have that one person that always asks you for money. Like what he calling me for now, he or she calling me for now. You gonna turn the head or nah, I'm not getting ready to answer the phone with him right now, so because he getting ready to ask me for money. So that's my opinion on it right there.
Yeah, I see it. What about you, Mel? Well, in concern to the going back to what you were saying, the partnership and the
Right.
friendship and
In your younger years, you're still learning. I feel like because you asked why we comparing friendship and relationship, it's a ship. It doesn't matter if it's platonic or romantic. It's still a ship, and you still have standards for this ship to flow. You still have when people align, they align off of different reasons. When for me, this is just for me. If I consider you as a friend, it's because you check those boxes off. For me to give you my loyalty, period. Not a percentage. It's just loyalty. Otherwise, then you're just an acquaintance. You're not a friend. So that is why I compare friendship and romantic and platonic if it's a friend, because it's still to me a high level. Like I don't allow everybody access to me to that point to give them that title a friend if they didn't check the boxes off. That makes sense.
yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
But the other thing that I want to ask you guys, okay, when you're looking at friendship, and like you say, you look at ships, right? Are we giving them the same boundaries or understanding in friendship? Because would you be friends with a person? Hear me out. If they cheat, do you consider that to be a good friend and you know they cheated? So guess what? That goes back to the integrity part of it, right?
Right.
Whether it's cheating, stealing, let me throw out some other adjectives on that, right? So
Right.
how do we differentiate from that? Let Walt go.
I'm quite sure you will. Always. Well, I think, like you said, with boundaries and stuff, some people don't give everybody the same type of boundaries. You have to separate the two. Say, remember what I discussed before, like when you consider associate versus a friend. So those are different boundaries with both of those. So somebody who just walking into your life and introducing themselves, you still like Melody said something earlier, like you still learning that person. So and you still young in the relationship. So friends, so they haven't did anything to prove to okay that you have that loyalty or that integrity. So as things happen, you know, things unfold, certain situations going on gonna make you determine which one, is that person in your life is integrity more, shows more integrity or loyalty to you, because, that's just life. Everything's gonna happen different. And so, but some people that I spoke with in the past that I talked with and everything, they more so like I consider them like they loyalty. And sometimes that loyalty person, they there for it, but at the same time that integrity is not there as well. Cause sometimes you need that one person to tell you like what's right from wrong. Cause they loyalty to you, but you don't have that person tell you right from wrong, show integrity and stuff, still can get you in a lot of trouble. I'm loyal to
Absolutely.
you, but so that's how I see it.
I appreciate that. Melanie, what you think?
In the past, I've had friends that were loyal, but they were not accountability partners. They were the ones that kind of got you in trouble. But in the friendship, because I learned like certain things about them, maybe that person was very witty, or maybe that person was very funny, and brought laughter around. But then you have to draw the line when it comes to your morals and your standards, because bad company corrupts good morals and good character. So when you look at it on those lines, then you have to draw a line. Hey, I love you for XYZ, but this does not align with my morals. This does not align with whatever that standards that you have. It can be communicated, but at some point you have to draw that line and let people know, like, hey, either you're going to, step up and change. I can only deal with you this much.
Do y'all feel
Mm.
like it's hard to let people go if you see that their loyalty and integrity don't align with you guys?
To me, I feel like it depends on the person that walks in your life. It depends on situations. Every situation is different. Some people who you met been known for 2 or 3 years, and y'all go y'all separate ways and say, "Oh, well." But then some people who you did some stuff with that got you out of jam or help you out in something. That person might be hard to let go, and y'all might just have a complete falling out and stuff. That's my opinion.
So you're saying depending on the attachment style, it
Yeah.
determines the attachment. The attachment could be emotional, the attachment could be spiritual, the attachment could be mental or physical. So it depends on the attachment of what you can and cannot and the trials, like you said, trials that you all have been through, the hurdles that you have overcame. So sometimes for someone that you have went through the mud with, it is a lot harder to detach from that person. And then for me, you have to do a lot of check and balances to determine, does the good outweigh the bad. I think that's what determines if a person detached, whether they're loyal or when it comes to the integrity part. When you do the checks and balances and you make your list of good versus bad, then that determines the detect. But you may be in a season where you have to detach because that person may have to, learn lessons to catch up to where you are. Because let's be real, in friendships, there are different maturity levels in different areas: emotional maturity, mentally mature, spiritually mature. So if you have a friend that does not align in a certain area, you may have to detach. And it's like that saying, love someone, you got to let them go. And if they love you, they'll come back. So sometimes in friendships, go through those challenges as well.
Yeah. Well, I can speak on myself when it's time for that friendship to end. I don't have a problem letting go. But sometimes, like you said, sometimes we grow apart, or sometimes you meet people where they at, and that's okay too. But
Right.
in this world of life that we're living, it's okay to let go.
Let go. I've learned to detach. If it doesn't align for my highest good, or if that person, if I feel like that they're going to be a hindrance to where I'm trying to go, I'm gonna let go with no
Yeah.
hesitation. And I'm gonna let them go with love. Always, this is something my grandmother instilled: leave people better than you met them. So I always leave on a loving and good note. So that way it doesn't harbor ill feelings. Now, if they have ill feelings, those are things that they may have to work out on their own. but I don't intentionally leave people on a bad note.
About you, Walt.
Well, sometimes I do find myself, depending on what the situation is, sometimes hard to let go and all that stuff. But however, over the past couple of years, I found out it's become more easy for me now because, as you get older, sometimes you just want peace. And sometimes you just gotta let stuff go. And what's gonna really affect your peace? What's gonna affect your peace moving forward and stuff? And sometimes the things that matters, sometimes the simplest things. And sometimes you don't want all that drama. So sometimes over the past couple of years, it has been easy for me to let go. So
Let's normalize peace. Let's start normalizing peace and let it go.
I agree.
Yep.
And letting go, I think the hardest to let go is sometimes family, because you come into a dynamic where you're taught blood is thicker than water, and then you find out the blood that runs through the same veins as others does not coincide with your beliefs or your standards. And then, as Walter said, when it comes to peace, there are family members that love chaos. There are
Yes.
family members that love drama. Even though you love them, you grew up with them, but at some point in life where we are deemed, but we should have maturated to be a thriving, healthy adult, you have to come to a point and say, this person has not changed. So that goes back to when we talked about changing. Some people like complacency. And if their complacency hinders you maturing and growing, then you have to disconnect. And some people, they're not going to understand the disconnection, because you choose to grow or you choose to change because they are complacent. But peace is
so,
everything. The older you
true.
get, you want a peace of mind. I mean, I think we all have had periods in our lives where we experience trauma. And as you deal with your distinct trauma, whether it's childhood trauma, adult trauma, relationship trauma, as you begin to grow through those heartaches and pains and you release the things that no longer serve, then peace is what you seek out. I love peace. I'm a lover of peace. Anything that disturbs my peace, I'm okay with cooking.
Yeah. I think a lot of times, as like you said, as you get older, we got to look at things a little bit different. But sometimes we got to hold a mirror at ourselves, and are we needing that connection from other people, which I think is good. I feel like everybody, you can see, but do it, but sit it for yourself. Okay. I know people go a lot of times where they be like, I don't need friends. You need somebody in your life. We're not meant to be alone in this world. But that's just my personal opinion. But connection is important, but also boundaries is even more important. And I'm just gonna live it like what Walter said. Peace is priceless. So Walt, last thing.
I mean, you just said it. Yeah. I don't, I mean, I don't have anything else to say. I mean, peace. I mean, you can't. It's nothing else.
Yeah.
Peace. As you get older, you want peace in your life. I mean, it's nothing more to say. You can't bargain on your peace. I concur with you.
And boundaries are needed to instill that you have peace. You have to put up boundaries. You have to put up healthy boundaries. And I have learned people who thrive in chaos do not respect boundaries. They do not understand boundaries, and they will try to cross the boundary. So I think that's the challenge of protecting your peace, is when you have people who are willing to cross those boundaries. And then that goes back to your loyalty, because where there's loyalty, there's love, right? So now when you have someone that's willing to cross the boundary, my question is, how much do you really love me if I'm telling you, hey, stop. This doesn't work for me. This is not good for me. And they continue to push. So at that point, I think that's where when Cara says she has no problem of disconnecting from someone, because in most cases people exemplify that push where, hey, I'm going to cross the boundary, even though you express that doesn't work for you. I'm going to cross it anyway because I feel like you should stay the same as you once were. And that right there, that's not cool. It's not. It's not. It's saying that I want you to be what I want you to be. I don't respect you for changing or growing or putting up boundaries because there's your peace. I don't want you to have peace. I'm gonna control your peace. And we all have experienced those, type of individuals in our life at some point. And I think that's where the disconnection or detachment of detaching from people who thrive off of being testy or being the antagonist in your life. When you choose to be the protagonist, they choose to be the antagonist in your life to keep your narrative to the storyline or their storyline or what they want to have in their world, but not your world. Not trying to see your world, if that makes sense.
Well, as I say, this final thing, as we think about it, be loyal to yourself. Look out for yourself, but also keep the integrity of yourself.
Absolutely.
I agree. Well, I think that's be a wrap up of this segment. So, from the heart of New Orleans, where every story carries weight and every choice leaves a mark, this has been Don't Spill the Tea, Spill the Truth. I'm Walt J here with Melanie and Cara. And this afternoon, we didn't just talk about loyalty and integrity. We exposed the tension between them. Because at the end of the day, loyalty will keep you connected, but integrity will define who you are when it matters the most. So the real question is simple. When the most comes, who are you going to be? Stay real, stay grounded, and we'll see you on the next one. All right. That's a wrap. Just in time, too.
Right? That's what I was saying. Like,